Izolezo. If you're old enough to remember that reference, South Africa's most impactful rap artist. Yo, does he still hold the record for the most records?
Yes, platinum selling
Platinum selling
rap artist or hip hop artist.
In a time
when it was only CDs.
Oh my God.
And it was only back then it was 25,000 for gold.
For gold.
And he made platinum, which is 50,000. Now gold is like 15,000. So anyone who says he has sold platinum now is only 30. So
they don't have the same claim. And
no, it's not in the same.
That's important to mention because Pitch Black Afro did that because he tapped into this thing we keep harping about, authenticity. And we keep saying it all the time, over and over and again. And I think sometimes some of our viewers, people, maybe some haters, some of y'all be hating, just think we're referring to rapping in Venek. No. We're talking about artists that can connect to the direct lived experience of their fan base. Not some kind of fantasy projection of what they think rap should sound like, but just speaking your reality. Pitch Black Afro spoke his reality. He did it with levity. He did it with finesse. And most importantly, a missing element that I think a lot of rappers don't have that Tulani Ngobo has is he did it with humor. You know, like, humor softens the spirit. Pitch Black Afro is just a naturally funny dude. Is he there?
I'm just thinking of the day in the life that...
Never seen this before. I never seen before.
Oh, man.
He's hilarious. He's a guy who's found a way to translate his deepest pains in a way that is lighthearted enough to have us feeling this jovial. Stalin Gel is a masterpiece. Purists would have you say Pitch Black Afro is rapping in gibberish. Nothing he says makes sense. This is not real rap. And I think all of those kind of critiques come from this very narrow-minded place of not understanding the ultimate purpose of rap. When I say the ultimate purpose, I say rap as an art form was created from the vibe of oppressed people trying to transcend their direct struggle. And as a result, it lends itself to the party experience, but it is also a narration of where we are as a people. So when you hear rappers talking about hip to the hop, when you hear rappers being lighthearted and giving us the joints that we dance to, there's always an underbelly of real political struggle that was being navigated with. Pitch Black Afro was probably the apex example of what happens when you take somebody who's a real definitive expression of a lot of the dynamics of what makes Black South Africa. And I think it is through his resurfacing, coming out of prison, and him coming back into the world, so to speak, and doing a lot of interviews, even releasing a joint that he performed on national television, that has brought the attention back to him as an artist. But I want to talk about how I think this attention is dangerous. I think Pitch Black Afro's legacy was mired by the fact that he was niched into this hip-hop block, and as a result, the general South Africa that resonated with him always identified it, nonetheless, as an artist who was pegged within this space of Amaniga. We've seen the memes of Amaniga. In South Africa, there's this rolling tirade,
My man.
oh my man, of the fact that, there's certain people who listen to rap music who don't have enough money to pay for drinks at the table, who are always yapping about the system, but don't have enough money to even take care of their children. There's a kind of dissent and a kind of denigrating image of the black South African man that loves rap. And it's loosely based on truth because South Africans took on hip hop in its commercial guise, and many of those who understood the culture were in this box that was influenced by a lot of pseudo mystical political ideas that just didn't have real grips with practice. And as a result, the cliche of the old head who wears his Timberlands, who is frustrated with the world but has no way of dealing with the life that he actually lives, is rooted in truth. And I think artists like Pitch Black Afro have been faded away by the comedy of this image. But nowadays, we should really, I think, take a look at the legacy of artists as they've impacted the game. Pitch Black Afro was arrested for allegedly murdering his wife. He spent time in prison and he's come out. He's told his story on a numerous podcasts. He's had interviews and you see a different Pitch Black. He's graying. His voice is a little bit charred. His eyes look a little bit yellow. He looks very run down and bent out of shape by the experiences that he's been through. But he still displays the same exuberance that he had, in the early 2000s. And for me, what I've observed from all of what he has done is the fact that Pitch Black Afro being in prison was like a man trapped in a time capsule. He literally was in a place where he could not engage with the world as it was changing. Pitch Black Afro blew up, so to speak, in a time where we were still busy on Mix It, and we still thought that the world was SABC. And now he's back in a time where the internet rules the world. Who is he in this time? What does his music mean? What does his legacy mean? And I think these are questions that he himself probably has not pondered on deeply. Because through his interviews, I see a man still trying to cling to the former glory in a time where, realistically speaking, the biggest rap star we have is Casper Nyovest, the Nasty C. And as a result, we're in a time where trap music reproduction dominates. Amapiano is globalizing itself. Where is the room for Pitch Black Afro? It doesn't exist.
Can I just interject? I
Of
know
course.
I have this theory.
Throw it at me.
Like, if you could mesh, like, if Pitch Black Afro could rap on fucking Amapiano, it will be over. Okay, that's my shit. Okay, but you can go on.
I mean, yeah. It could work. But the challenge, I think, would probably be the generational gap. Pitch Black Afro is conspicuously old. He looks old.
Yeah.
We can see that he's aged significantly. And I think when old niggas try to pander to the youth, it's a fine line.
Man, Krodman raps and
he raps. He does rap. But it's like your dad going to the club with you. There are more chances of it being terrible than it working.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So as a result, I really feel Pitch Black Afro is in a place that is,
precarious
to say the least. But his story is eternal. Because through his recent interviews, what we see, I think, is the fact that we failed Pitch Black Afro through his narrative. I didn't know the nigga could play the piano. That's incredible. I didn't know he was classically trained in music. I didn't know that he rapped because he took speech therapy to help his stutter. And as a result, he discovered hip hop as a way of trying to literally accentuate his voice. I didn't know that when he was busy working with Cleo and Will of Steel. And I think South Africa has had this consistent trend of bringing artists as caricatures. We don't know who these people are, we just know what they talk about. And he only gives us who he is in a time where there is very little space for the commercial viability of what he can do as an artist. So what I want to talk about is the fact that if South Africa could be very heightened in its sense of giving artists the platform to not only bring the music but their narratives, we could give artists the room to have a legacy that has enough space for them to grow with the times. Pitch Black Afro is in the forefront of where we are. And I think ultimately it rings to me very similar to what Frank Wilderson talks about when he says blackness is a context of the non-human. To be black is to be made something other than a person, than a human being. Because the problem with the human is that it is implicitly based on whiteness. To be human, in a sense, is to be white. And thus to be black is to be a worker, not a person, not an essential being with a capacity that is recognized for who they are, but only to be seen for what you can do. Pitch Black Afro was subject to that very same chain and that cycle. And as a result, what we know of Pitch Black is the Pitch Black that can do all of these eccentric, interesting, lyrical feats, who speaks in a style which broads on gibberish, who goes back, who talks to the township. And I think in that, so much was lost. What was lost? One, Pitch Black Afro's defiance of language represents a creativity that not many MC has the courage to do. To say instead of any other legible sentence might be looked down in the rap context, but I think it represents the individuality to be brave enough to say, if the language that we speak amongst us is not understood by most, the barometer for what constitutes the words that we can speak only depends on who we are. Pitch Black Afro had the courage to speak in a slang, in a way which did not make conventional sense in formal English, but to the hood rang home. The reason that he went platinum, but hip hop heads still don't rate him, is the fact that everyday South Africans could connect with his so-called gibberish, while hip hop heads who tend to incline towards this classically formal English structure, which needs to be decolonialized, don't recognize the fact that through a Pitch Black, we see an artist who is breaking us out of the coloniality of our own minds. The fact that the English we know and speak can either be the English of the white man or an English of our own making. Because ultimately, English is a mixed medium. There's French, there's Latin, there's all kinds of things. And artists like Pitch Black push the envelope by pushing what English can be. By saying, by saying all kinds of things that ring true to the actual experience of people, but not to a dictionary. The times of trying to find words to rap by looking at the dictionary are long gone. Because if Shakespeare is your level of excellence, if you rate your poetic abilities by old white men with books that are dusty and fluffy and probably filled with a lot of bias towards the rest of indigenous worlds, you're limiting yourself to a colonial attitude. Pitch Black is the first decolonial rapper, I claim, in South Africa's hip hop history. Pro Kid might have given us Gussie Finesse, aka might have had the pop relativity that was able to understand the politics of the times. Ricky Rick might have been swagger enough to connect with the youth, but still intimate enough to open the everyday person. But Pitch Black was on a linguistic project. Styling Gel is an album that feels like it was made for fun. It was made as a conversation, as a dialogue with South Africa. And as a result, I think that the legacy of Pitch Black Afro is political. And his ultimate demise is also a result of the very same politics that binds us. His blackness is what freed him, but it's also what caged him. Whether he killed his wife or not, the fact that he was in that predicament is a direct reflection of how low black life goes. So as a result, I think when Pitch Black Afro resurfaces in the world, he has only one real true path at this point in time. He is a marking point to the past. He's an opportunity for younger people to realize what went wrong in order for us to reconfigure what could go right today. Piano, again, has hit the States. And yet, we are still not in charge of that thrust. South Africa is a low self-esteem country that still believes that the West must confirm our greatness. So as a result, Pitch Black is an artist who always stood for the opposite. That our greatness is latent within us, and if we are ever to be great in the world, it is through recognizing who we are. So as he resurfaces as a shabby old man, a has-been, an old head, the only hope that I have is that the youth are watching with eyes that can recognize the fact that this is what happens when we do not give the artists that truly represent the power that can transcend us the influence that they need. Pitch Black Afro is the ultimate testament of what goes wrong in South Africa because he represents the highest pinnacle on the lowest fall. How does that happen? It happens because we are still subservient to a standard that is not ours that measures greatness. And yet, the world sees greatness from us and takes it without our consent. So if there's anything that I think the story of Pitch Black Afro teaches us through his woes with Wheel of Steel, through his challenges with the law, the media, the politics, the culture, is the fact that not only do artists need our consent to open the gates of their own freedom, we have to consent to acknowledging the fact that we are more great than we think we are. Talk to me in the comment section. A little blurb that I wrote off. I feel very passionate about Pitch Black as an artist, and I think this moment is a time to reflect on that. My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. You're watching the Headspace. Keep subscribing. Here's what it is.